الشيطان والغذاء والدماغ، عنوان هذا الفيديو والحلقة التي تربط بين العلم والدين. عدم تركيز الإنسان إلى المحاضرات التوعوية المطولة. هناك عدة أسباب، من أسبابها الدماغ. فالعقل السليم في الجسم السليم. ما هو العقل السليم وما هو الجسم السليم وما هو الربط بينهما؟ وكيف استطاع الشيطان الدخول من هذا المنفذ حتى يعمي أعيننا عن معرفة الحقائق؟ فمعرفة الحقيقة والتحليل السليم يحتاج إلى عقل سليم. كيف استطاع الشيطان الدخول إلى العقل البشري؟ عن طريق الغذاء. إنه الغذاء الشيطاني الذي دخل إلى المعامل لأجل الأرباح المادية وعمل تلاعباً بالمواد الغذائية، كمثال السكر، فهو السم الأبيض. ما علاقة السكر بالدماغ؟ وما علاقة السكر بعدم التركيز؟ السكر الذي يتناوله الناس كباراً وصغاراً. لقد أرفقت في هذا الفيديو فيديوهات مفصلة عن تأثير السكر على الدماغ البشري، كيف يشتت الانتباه ويفقد الإنسان تركيزه، وكيف يعمل ضبابية في الدماغ وتشتت في الدماغ وعدم القدرة على تحليل الأمور وعدم القدرة على التركيز. من هنا نقطة الشيطان تبدأ. أنا دكتوره دينا القيسي، طبيبة أسنان وباحثة بالتغذية العلاجية. أهدي هذا الكلام إلى شخص عزيز على قلبي، لعلنا نشارك في توعية عقول الناس والوصول للأسباب لعدم التركيز. الكلام في هذا الموضوع مطول، ولكنني أختصر. كطبيبة أسنان، السكر يدمر الأسنان ويدمر الجسم، وهناك حقائق خفية في هذا الموضوع. هذا من ناحية. ومن ناحية تأثير السكر على الجسم بصورة عامة، الكل يعرف هذه المعلومات، ولكن تأثير السكر على الدماغ، والبعض يقولون ومنهم كبار العلماء والأطباء بأن السكر هو غذاء الدماغ. ما أصل هذه المعلومات؟ وهل صحيح أن السكر غذاء الدماغ أم عدو الدماغ؟ الحقائق العلمية تبين أن السكر العدو اللدود للدماغ، وأنه يؤدي إلى عدم التركيز وعدم المعرفة. المعرفة النورانية تحتاج إلى قلب سليم وجسد سليم وعقل وروح سليمة. هيا بنا يداً بيد لنحاول أن ننهض بالإنسانية ليتمكنوا من إنقاذ أنفسهم من الضياع وإنقاذ أنفسهم من حبال الشيطان. والله إني أقول أن الموضوع متشعب وأن حبال الشيطان ويده طويلة. ماذا أقول وماذا أتكلم عن السموم الغذائية في عصرنا الحديث والسموم البيئية التي خربت الجسد البشري؟ للأسف. عن ماذا نتكلم؟ عن السكر الذي في المعامل، أم عن الملح الأبيض المعالج بالحرارة العالية، أم عن الطحين المضاف إليه كميات هائلة من الجلوتين؟ ما هو الجلوتين؟ الجلو هو الصمغ، حيث عندما يأكل الإنسان هذا الخبز الذي المفروض هو نعمة الله، أو الطحين بأنواعه، فإذا هو يلتصق بجدار المعدة وجدار الأمعاء ويعمل ثقوب ويعمل ارتشاح الأمعاء ويعمل مشاكل كثيرة. للأسف إنه العصر الحديث وعصر المعامل. أين الدجاج والأبقار والحيوانات التي ترعى في المراعي التي خلقها الله وتأكل الأعشاب الطبيعية؟ انظروا ماذا تأكل الآن، اذهبوا وابحثوا. لماذا الآن في العصر الحديث الناس يشكون من مشاكل الجهاز الهضمي، القولون والانتفاخات وجرثومة المعدة وارتشاح الأمعاء والأمراض المناعية؟ أنا كطبيبة أسنان ألاحظ انتشار اللسان الأبيض، فطريات الكانديدا، وهذه تؤدي إلى تدهور الحالة النفسية ووصول الإنسان إلى حالة من التردد والقلق النفسي والتوتر والكآبة. هذا بسبب المعدة وبسبب الأمعاء وارتشاح الأمعاء وفرط نمو البكتيريا في الأمعاء السيبو، ومشاكل الحياة التي تؤدي إلى ارتفاع هرمون الكورتيزول، وهو هرمون التوتر الذي يؤثر على صحة الجسد. اللهم نسألك الرحمة واللطف في عبادك. الناس يأكلون ولا يعلمون، وخاصة الفقراء منهم، يقولون إذن ماذا نأكل؟ إنها مشكلة عالمية كبيرة في العالم والكرة الأرضية. الأجبان السائلة التي يأكلها الناس فهي رخيصة الثمن، هي مليانة بالزيوت النباتية المهدرجة المليانة الأوميغا 6 التي تؤثر على الدماغ وتعمل التهابات في الجسم. عن ماذا نتكلم؟ الحليب البقري المليان بالهرمونات، حيث يعطون الحيوانات العلف المليان بالأنتيبايتك. الأنتيبايتك هو يقتل البكتيريا النافعة، بالأخير تصل إلى أجسامنا. البكتيريا النافعة هي المسؤول عن 90% من الحالة النفسية للإنسان. ما هي العوامل التي تقتل البكتيريا النافعة؟ السكر، التوتر، الطحين، الزيوت النباتية، حتى المي اللي نشربه مليان كلور، هذا الكلور يقتل البكتيريا النافعة. أحواض السباحة مليانة كلور، حتى معاجين الأسنان بيها فلورايد. هذا الفلورايد صح إنه يقتل البكتيريا الضارة، بس بنفس الوقت يقتل البكتيريا النافعة. وهنا الطامة الكبرى، البكتيريا النافعة هي عشائر وسلالات وقبائل كبيرة في داخل الجسم البشري. نقص البكتيريا النافعة، مشاكل القولون والمعدة وجرثومة المعدة والحالات النفسية، هذه الأمراض المنتشرة. ماذا يبقى في أجسامنا من الفيتامينات والمعادن؟ إن السكر والطحين يعمل مثل الإسفنجة، يمتص جميع الفيتامينات والمعادن من الجسم، وأيضا يعمل على تقليل حامض المعدة. كيف نهضم الطعام؟ انتوا ما تلاحظون مشاكل عسر الهضم، مشاكل الانتفاخات والقولون العصبي والتقرحي والأمراض المناعية بأنواعها؟ أكثر الناس تدمرت بسبب هذا الغذاء الشيطاني، وذهب تركيزها وذهبت عقولهم، فلا يستطيعون الاستماع إلى محاضرة أكثر من 5 ثواني. وهذه حقيقة يقولها الناس لي: دكتوره لا نستطيع الاستماع للفيديوهات المطولة أكثر من 5 إلى 15 ثانية، إنه الشيطان. ولذلك يجب علينا محاربة الشيطان من هذه النقطة. لا أعلم لماذا لا تعطى فتاوي بقطع السكر وحملة مقاطعة السكر، لأنها تذهب بعقول الناس. لماذا لا توجد توعية حقيقية من علماء الدين حول الغذاء، حيث يجب الاتجاه إلى الغذاء الذي خلقه الله وليس إلى الغذاء الشيطاني، وأصبح ليس غذاء بل سما للبشرية. الآن أنا أفكر نعمة الله، الغذاء نعمة الله. الناس لا يفرقون بين الغذاء الرباني والغذاء الشيطاني. هل السكر هي نعمة الله الذي دخل المعامل، أم الطحين الذي تحور عبر السنين وأضيف له كميات هائلة من الجلوتين فهو ليس طعاما للبشر؟ أما السموم البيئية فلا مجال لذكرها في هذا الفيديو. الموضوع طويل جدا. كل ما هنالك نصيحتي لكم أن تبحثوا وتتقصوا الحقائق. هذا ما تعلمناه منكم. الآن تابعوا الفيديو للنهاية.
5 secrets that the sugar industry does not want you to know about, and you probably have never heard about. Number 1, they hid the truth about 60 years ago, and I'm talking about a study that related eating sugar to increasing the risk of heart attacks and other cardiovascular events and certain types of cancer. And this hiding of the truth actually occurred even before the tobacco industry hid some of their studies. And what they did is they quietly paid researchers to cover this up, to basically lie. And the study was called, I think, Project 259. And what they did is they shift the blame from sugar to fat. Number two, they actually made sugar an essential ingredient in foods. This is probably why they talk about, sugar is necessary for your brain because it's the primary source of fuel. So we need sugar, right? Because it's essential. The sugar industry is a $37 billion industry. And that was in 2021. I don't know what it is now. They produce over 180 billion metric tons of sugar every single year. An average person in the United States consumes 26 teaspoons every single day. That's what this is right here, 26 teaspoons. That's a lot of sugar. All right, number three, sugar is subsidized in the US. Tax dollars goes to pay these farmers to produce sugar. So basically we pay double. And when I'm talking about paying, I'm talking about $4 billion a year. And on average, a household of 4 people pays about $50 a year. This is regardless of whether you eat sugar or not. You're contributing to the overhead of the production of sugar. Incredible. Why don't they do that with salad or vegetables? Something that's good versus the thing that is behind so many health problems. The lobbyist group are so powerful. They actually kind of keep things controlled pretty well. All right, the next point. There's something called the bliss point. It's an optimized amount of sugar to create this delicious effect. If you keep adding sugar to any ingredient, at some point it's going to be like, that's too much, I don't like it. So there's a certain amount of sugar that you have to put in certain foods to optimize this bliss moment, this point of like, wow, this is just delicious. And what happens in the brain is you get this spike in endorphins. Endorphins give you the sensation of pain relief, of stress relief, of well-being, of happiness, pleasure. So it's training us that if you feel bad or if you want more pleasure, you just need to keep eating this thing. And this is really what's behind an addiction. All right, and number 5, you have the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. This is the group of dietitians, which basically are the most influential group over food policy and what Americans eat. And they have a very close symbiotic relationship with the ultra-processed food industry. There was this journalist, Ruskin. So what he did is he filed the Freedom of Information Act because it was very difficult to get specific donations to this organization. And from that action, he got 80,000 papers, okay? And he found in those papers something very, very shocking. He found massive donations to this organization. I think between the years of 2011 and 2017, it was actually $15 million. Basically, the dietitian group has become a pro-voice for these industries. I mean, just look at the food pyramid. I mean, you'll just see that it's all based on how strong the lobbyist group is. Sugar is composed of both glucose and fructose. Glucose is metabolized by pretty much all your cells in your body, but fructose, unfortunately, is only metabolized by your liver. So when you consume excessive amounts of table sugar and high fructose corn syrup and all the sodas and drinks and things like that, you're creating a very toxic effect to the liver, which is very similar to alcohol toxicity. There's a term called glucotoxicity, okay? Too much glucose. Another term for that is hyperglycemia. The cause of hyperglycemia is this, diabetes, but what are they missing? They don't even mention the consumption of too much sugar. That's not even in the area of causation at all. On the flip side, when you cut the sugar out of the diet, your body replaces that with ketones. There's a great article I'm going to share with you. It's on ketones being a super fuel. And I'm going to put that link down below. There's one way you can fight back. Just go on a low carb diet, because the less you buy these products, the greater the market will change and provide products that are healthier. I remember when I was on a high carb diet, Boy, did I have brain fog. I had no idea that it was coming from all this sugar. I didn't make the connection until one day I decided to give up the sugar, and it was like someone took this brain fog helmet off of my head, and I finally actually can think.
And the sugar industry spends so much money on campaign contributions to members of Congress that sugar is actually subsidized in America. It should be outlawed, and it's subsidized.
Wow, and it's hard to convince people not to eat it because it tastes so good. That's why we all love it, you know?
Now, it does taste good. So you eat 1 to 2 teaspoons, your body is going to be in biochemical chaos for 6 to 8 hours. Now, health is when all of your biochemistry is balanced and all your chemistry is working right. Then guess what? Your body is going to be in biochemical chaos 24 hours a day.
So what's a good amount then to get on a daily basis?
None.
None?
None, yeah.
I'm in trouble.
Basically should be outlawed. We should not, and here we allow children, you know, we don't allow children to smoke cigarettes. We don't allow children to drink alcohol, but we allow them to buy sugar and eat sugar. Sugar is far more dangerous than alcohol or cigarettes. Sugar causes every imaginable disease. For example, Alzheimer's. Sugar is the leading cause of Alzheimer's. Sugar is a major cause of cancer, a major cause of heart disease, a major cause of diabetes. This is, you know, it's a major cause of colds and flu. Sugar is a deadly metabolic poison. Get off of it.
Now, let me ask you, how did you come to this understanding of sugar? Because if it's so bad, why aren't we hearing about this all over the place? A lot of, you know, my doctor's never told me not to eat sugar.
Yeah, well, nobody ever told your doctor, and your doctor is not doing the research to find out. We're all made of these little little microscopic units of life called cells. And we started life as one cell in our mother. The average person is now somewhere around 75 trillion cells. 75 trillion, that's a lot. But it all comes down to if every cell is working the way it's supposed to, you can't be sick. Gotcha. The only way to be sick is when a large number of cells malfunction. So your job is to keep all your cells functioning properly. Well, how do you do that? Very simple. You give the cells all the nutrition they need on a daily basis, and they have a grocery list of what they need. So give them what they need on a daily basis and keep them free of toxins that can interfere with the normal function of the cell, and then the cells will function normally, and then you can't be sick. So you see, you can live a disease-free life simply by keeping your cells functioning normally.
The American Diabetes Association, of course, disagrees. They say, right on their website, that it's a fact that for most people, type 2 diabetes is a progressive disease. So you might as well forget about it. Don't even try to get better. It's hopeless. They're telling you there's no hope. But we can look at certain examples and we can see that this is actually not true at all. Type 2 diabetes, in fact, a curable and reversible disease. The fact that treatments exist means that there is hope for all of us. Drugs, however, cannot cure a dietary disease. The cure must be a diet, the right diet.
I've talked extensively on sugar causing weight gain and destroying the kidneys, the heart, the eyes, the nervous system. But I haven't really emphasized the magnitude of what sugar can do to your brain, especially the cognitive connection to the brain. And when I mean cognitive, I'm talking about your ability to put attention on something, to focus in and concentrate. See, when you put your attention on something for a period of time, you're actually ignoring a lot of extra data and distractions that are around you. You have to zone in on one thing, and that requires a good amount of cognitive power. In fact, your ability to hold your attention on something and get something done is really your personal power. And when you lose that and you're so distracted, they call that attention deficit disorder, right? They kind of made up and labeled this condition, which they say is a dopamine deficiency, but there's no proof. That's just a theory. They also say that there's no cure. There's just therapy and there's just medication, because they definitely don't talk about a cure. They say there's no cure, but there's just management. You're managing these symptoms. Now, when we talk about the influence of sugar on the parts of the brain, especially the frontal lobe and the hippocampus, which is involved in memory, learning, and things like that, we do know that there's a very temporary spike in dopamine, okay, which is your pleasure center. It affects your mood, your behavior. It makes you feel better, right? It makes you feel happier, at least for a minute, right? Until the receptors for dopamine start downgrading, okay? So now it takes more and more sugar to create the same effect. But here's the big problem with sugar on the brain. It alters the inhibitory parts of the brain. So now we have less control over our own brains. We have less control over filtering this extra data that's coming in on us 24/7, and we cannot put our attention on anything for a period of time. So we lose focus. There's actually atrophy of the brain going on over a period of time. There's specifically the frontal lobe as well as the hippocampus, and it ages the brain. So it makes your brain older and it reduces blood flow to the brain. And what's really just bizarre to me is that when you look up attention deficit disorder, they talk about hereditary, they talk about environmental factors, but they don't ever even mention the word sugar as a direct association or a cause. And let me just first talk about the symptoms, how they describe ADD, okay? Not able to pay attention to detail, errors due to negligence, okay? Difficulty in focusing attention, problem with listening, problem with finishing tasks, problem organizing. I mean, what if they just never been taught on how to organize something, right? I mean, it's not something that always comes naturally to people. Next one is avoiding activities that require sustained attention. Problem in placing objects back where they belong. I think that's probably just genetic, because I have a hard time putting things back where they should be. Gets distracted easily and forgetting tasks. I think this describes the entire population, right? And then how did they come up with this diagnosis? Well, they actually got together in a room and they voted on this. There's no objective test, there's no blood test, there's no anything. It's all subjective. Now, since we're on the topic, let me just throw in one little thing on attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, right? This is like, wow. Increased mobility of limbs, the child playing with his hands and feet. Inability to stay seated for a long period of time. I mean, who can sit down for a long period of time? I don't know. I think everyone has that issue. All right, 3, running and climbing excessively, even in situations when this is not appropriate. I mean, isn't this normal for a child? Number 4, difficulty playing quietly. So in other words, what you're saying is when you're playing, you have to be quiet. That's normal. I think there's a problem with that. All right, and last one is speaking excessively. That's a problem. I think it's a problem not speaking too much, like you have someone too quiet versus someone that just likes to talk. Wow, incredible. So this is how they diagnose it, but then the treatment is Ritalin, right? Ritalin apparently is supposed to increase your dopamine, but it has some slight minor side effects, which I want to read right here. Tachycardia, high blood pressure, headache, insomnia, anxiety, weight loss, dry mouth, abdominal pain, heart problems, psychosis, and death. Okay, and then also withdrawal symptoms, depression, dissatisfaction with life, exhaustion, nightmares, and suicide thoughts. And even the World Health Organization, which I'm surprised they even say this, but says the evidence of benefit versus harm is unclear. I mean, to me, it looks like there's a lot of harm going on when people get on Ritalin and trying to come off of it. Of course, if we want to learn more about this sugar, we want to go to the experts, the Sugar Association, okay? I think it's sugarassociation.org. What they say is, as long as you practice moderation and portion control, you can have your cake and eat it too, right? But what really gets me is there's 2 things that they say that are completely lies, okay? Number 1 is they say carbohydrates are the number 1 source of energy in the body. That's absolutely not true, right? You can run your body on ketones, actually way more efficiently. So positively Not true. If you run your whole body in sugar for a period of time, you're going to have a lot of health problems. And the second thing they say is sugar is essential for the brain, okay? No, it's not essential for the brain. If you stop eating sugar, your body will start making ketones. There are certain parts of your brain that need sugar, but that can come from your body's ability to make sugar. This is why our livers can do what's called gluconeogenesis, okay? This is a normal thing. If our body needs a little bit of sugar, it can make it. We don't need to have sugar. So this is false information. All right, so what is the solution? Stop sugar. If you have kids that have a problem with attention deficit disorder, I'm not telling you to get them off the medication, but I'm just saying if you stop the sugar, you're going to find that they're going to start controlling their behavior a lot better. And the easiest way to come off sugar is to replace it with an alternative sugar. I would recommend sugar alcohols like xylitol, erythritol, monk fruit, stevia. I will put a link down below of all sorts of recipes. And honestly, it's basically the same sensation of sweet, just without being sugar. And then that way it makes it easier. But to be able to get rid of the cravings for sugar, you have to stop sugar. You can't just get rid of the cravings without stopping sugar for a period of time. And I'm only talking about 1 to 2, maybe 3 days, okay? And you got to bring your carbs down below 20 grams per day. And that's going to really help your appetite and reduce your cravings. And I think until you do that, you're really not going to know that it's doable. It's like, wow, your cravings will go away within 3 days. And then it's going to be so much easier, okay? Number 2, start taking B1. Get a natural source or nutritional yeast, because B1 directly helps the nervous energy that both kids and adults have. It helps the brain focus as well as replace the major deficiency that has occurred because of all the sugar. So anytime you consume sugar, you also at the same time better be taking a lot of B1, or else you go in the negative. And the symptom of B1 with the brain is a lot of cognitive problems, memory loss, inability to learn, nervous energy, can't focus on anything, restless leg syndrome, insomnia, and even nightmares, believe it or not. Okay, and the third thing is to fix your brain, okay? It's fasting, and you'd fast 18 hours with a 6-hour eating window. You're gonna find, if you do this for at least a week, your cognitive function is gonna go way up. A lot of you watching have already done this, so please put your comments down below so those people who have not done this can see the massive, amazing successes that fasting can do for your focus, your concentration, and your attention. All right, next thing, and this is very, very, very common, high insulin, because you eat a lot of carbohydrate. You have insulin resistance. And when you have high insulin, you're going to live in a lot of brain fog, lack of clarity, lack of focus. You're going to be irritable and have ADD, attention deficit disorder. Now, this is a very easy problem to solve just by changing your diet.